For more, we're joined by a professor of finance from the European School of Management and Technology in Berlin, Jörg Rocholl. Let's just backtrack a little to start with. How did Portugal get itself into this mess?
Portugal has seen relatively sluggish growth rates over the last decade, so its economy has certainly lost in competitiveness towards other countries, and this really created a lot of problems that will now come up.
We mentioned the money that Portugal could make on the auction of government bonds next month. Let's take a look at the yield on those bonds. The picture's quite erratic. You can see that Europe's been going through and is still going through a debt crisis, but more recently, Portuguese bonds have doubled in value. They're well ahead of Spanish bonds and German ones too, which have experienced more of a sliding trend, although they're gradually picking up again. My question to you is, can Portugal get itself out of this mess and on its own?
Well, there will be two very important dates over the next couple of months, which are April 15th and June 15th. These are 2 days at which Portugal has to refinance its debt and at which it has to be seen whether they will be able to actually get enough money from outsiders. Otherwise, they definitely need to go to the rescue package.
Is the interest there? There was strong demand for the Spanish bonds, but Portugal's in a different position.
Certainly it is, and I would also make a substantial difference between Portugal and Spain. Spain has seen lots of surpluses in its budget over the last decade. It has seen, though, the problems with the banking sector. In Portugal, I think the problem is more widespread in the sense that the whole economy is not competitive at this point of time.
So would it make sense for Portugal to seek a bailout, as the ECB has said?
There are 2 points to this. On the one hand, it does make sense because it just increases the way of getting financing or getting funding. At the same time, I don't think this will be sufficient because we've seen the sluggish growth rates, the lacking competitiveness, and more needs to be done to actually deal with these 2 points rather than just doing the refinancing.
And you don't think a bailout would scare away investors?
Not necessarily, but certainly the one big question that will come up is what will happen actually over the next couple of years. Will this just be a short-term remedy, or actually will there be really long-term sustainable measures taken to bring Portugal back on track?
Another question is who will be footing this bill, because it's a big one, of course. We've got a rescue fund made up of 80 billion euros in cash and then another 620 in guarantees. Taking a look at how that's divvied up, Europe's economic engine will be forced to bear the brunt of that cash injection, almost 22 billion euros. Then there's France and Italy putting in around 15 billion each. The Spanish share's a lot lower, and the remaining chunk of that money comes from the other euro area countries. Where is the German government going to get that money from?
Well, it definitely means that Germany needs to attract more borrowing from outside lenders. So this means we have to sell more treasury securities to actually get the funding. But it also means that eventually interest rates for German government bonds may go up just because the risk of the riskiness will increase.
And just briefly, private investors, the banks?
Definitely. Private investors, institutional investors, basically from all around the world.
Jörg Rocholl from the European School of Management and Technology, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.